no reconciliation with Harry and the rest of the royals, despite numerous headlines of, oh, is Harry going to reconcile? Is this going to be a moment where the royals reconcile with Harry? Oh my goodness, Charles, everybody's coming together. This is a moment for everybody to get on the same page, and that's just not going to happen. Yes, Harry was 100% right in going to visit his father, and yes, Charles was absolutely right to have his son visit him. But I think the bigger annoyance in this whole situation, at least for somebody who has watched royals for a long time, was watched the fallout of Harry and Meghan and their constantly disastrous decisions, their seemingly efforts to destroy the monarchy because they think they're saving it by undermining it at the same time, is that there is going to be no reconciliation. And in fact, I would posit that perhaps Harry's true motivation somewhat in going to the UK and visiting his father, I mean, it's both to see his father. I think there's also a different undercurrent going on at the same time, because if I was Harry and Meghan, I would perhaps be a little bit worried, because they're in a much better spot if Charles is king and in charge. If William is more in charge of the monarchy as his father is ill, if he is able to exert perhaps more influence and perhaps other more decision making, those could result in some pretty calamitous consequences for Harry and Meghan. And so we are going to talk a little bit about this today, because I think it's important to set the record straight, because all I've seen is these crazy headlines about reconciliation. And I know, at least right now, in the current circumstances, it just ain't happening. And I would argue it probably will never happen unless a few key metrics are met. So guys, but if you haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany and I provide you all compelling royal commentary. So if you guys want to hit the subscribe button, that would be fantastic. I want to get to 150,000 subscribers like very, very soon. Could we even do it this month? Who knows? It's the shortest month of the year. That's probably shooting a bit too high, but I think that would be awesome. So I would love to have you guys back. I also have an upcoming trip to Scotland. So if you love chatting with other people who love royals and you want to chat with me and just hang out and everything, we have an upcoming trip to Scotland. We start in Edinburgh, we go up to the Isle of Skye, and it's just a great opportunity to meet other people who just love this space too. I know our little chat group that we had for our Germany-Austria trip, people are still chatting on that, and it's just a great way to keep up with people and just really develop friends around the country and around the world. So if you guys are interested in any of that, feel free to check out the link. I'll put the link up here and then I'll also put the link down below. I also have a brand sponsorship with Ana Lucia Diamonds. So I have my necklace on today, which I do love. It's gradient diamonds, and then some stud earrings here as well. And so if you guys are interested in that, I'll link these specific pieces down below and perhaps some of my favorite as well. And we did just have a giveaway expire, so I'll be working on trying to grab who the winner will be here very, very soon. But back to what is going on with Charles. So we have a couple of bits more news about it. We still do not know exactly what cancer Charles has. I want to be clear about that, because a lot of people are speculating it's prostate, bladder, yada, yada, yada. We don't know specifically. I think it would be helpful if Charles did let the public know at some point, but I could see him not saying that for a couple different reasons. I could see him saying that because perhaps it's something he doesn't really want to talk about publicly. Of course, we all have those things in our life that we don't really want to go into. Or it could be something where the particular cancer he has is rather aggressive, and even though it was caught early, it's still a pretty aggressive form of cancer. He doesn't want people overly speculating into the negative. So those are kind of the two different scenarios that I could see. Perhaps we will get more information as time moves forward, but we do know, and I read articles from both the Telegraph and the Times, which are both very, very reputable papers, that at this point Charles has started his treatment. He will not engage in any further real events until after his treatment has been completed. So I imagine it sounds like it could be immunotherapy, radiation, or chemotherapy. And usually chemo and those sorts of things, they're in cycles, usually a couple weeks in between. And so it just depends on exactly what he's being treated with. And apparently, as they've gotten better at treating cancer, what they do now is they actually treat the cancer first with chemo or whatever, and then they go and they do additional surgery. So it's entirely possible that Charles will have his treatment and then he will go perhaps and have an additional surgery if needed. Just putting that out there because that is apparently where the medical field in oncology is going. Oncology is the study of cancers. So that could be where this is going right now. We just don't really know for sure. We do know as well that Charles will spend most of his time in the countryside. So he will have a very limited staff around him, and he will make weekly trips in back to London for official business, except for if he's perhaps not feeling particularly well that week. Again, if you don't know somebody who's gone through cancer treatments, if they're kind of go in cycles. So they get the treatment and then it's a couple weeks until the next one. So the first week after the treatment, they're pretty sick and then they get better. And then by the third week, at least that's how family members I've had who have gone through chemo treatments, that's how they feel. They have a really bad first week, second week's okay, third week they feel great, and then it's back to square one and they do the same rigmarole all over again. So that could be what Charles is going through. So he'll either spend a lot of time at Sandringham or at his estate that he purchased years ago, Highgrove. So those are the two places that he's at. And so when it comes to Prince Harry, obviously he flew in last night to visit his father. And I will say 100%, I know some people criticize the palace for even inviting him. It was good that Harry went to visit his dad. It was incredibly good for him to go and do that. He would be raked over the coals if he didn't. People are raking him over the coals for going, but it would be worse if he didn't. I would criticize him a lot for not going because again, you don't know how much time you have left. And Harry has already dragged his feet on meeting his other family members and lost them in the meantime. I'm particularly thinking of Prince Philip and of course Her Majesty the Queen. So Harry really can't afford to drag his feet here. However, here's what's interesting about the meeting. It was only about 30 minutes, which is a very short time frame, enough to exchange some pleasantries and get some things out of the way perhaps. But then Charles immediately got in his helicopter, went to Sandringham without Harry. He is staying at a hotel somewhere. Obviously, usually it would be Harry would have to give notice to come and utilize a Crown Estate. However, given the situation, it's understandable if they can get something together for him really quickly. Apparently, he did move from Clarence House to Buckingham Palace, but again, he didn't go with his father. There is always a chance he will meet with his father later. Apparently, that could be possible. Sandringham is about 2 hours and 40 minutes outside of London, so it would take him a while by car. And obviously, he also cannot use a royal helicopter. So if he wants to commission a helicopter, he will have to do that all by himself like a big boy. So we do have a couple of updates since I initially recorded this episode. So Harry definitely did stay at a hotel. He did not stay at any of the Crown Estates, and Harry is already on his way home. So he flew 11 hours for a 30-minute meeting only to immediately go back. So obviously, if Charles wanted to see Harry again, he could probably have arranged something, but just sounds like the royals just kind of want to say, hi, Harry, yes, you could come, say hello, now go home. And so this was a very, very short meeting. And this signifies to me a couple of things. Number one, apparently Charles wasn't feeling well, which is completely understandable. This is the first time he's had the treatment, whatever it happens to be. He could be having a bad reaction to it. Because again, all these treatments, although they are very good, people react individually. Some people react just fine. Other people have a worse reaction. All depends. And I also think it indicates that Harry, although he was welcomed back, they're not really bringing him into the confidences. Really, all they could exchange in 30 minutes is some pretty minimal banalities. I would imagine the conversation was very banal. Whatever it was, how was your flight? It's so good to see you. Thank you for coming. What are your plans while you're here? Nothing specific, really, I would imagine. And although Charles is going through this treatment, I imagine he's not telling his son everything. And I think that's okay. I mean, parents do want to protect their children when they're going through something like this. So if your parent doesn't tell you everything, that's somewhat understandable. But at the same time, I can see it too where Charles and the rest of the royals are not sure if they can trust Harry. I think Charles is a little bit more amenable on that, but when it comes to, I think, the broad rest of the royal family, they're like, yeah, we don't totally trust Harry. Can you just keep him sort of far away? Because apparently that is what William's doing. So although Harry is in town, he is not meeting with his brother. And again, that reflects how I think William is going to always take the hard line with Harry, and Charles is going to be a little bit more flexible. And Harry and Meghan know this. They know this. So this is just my theory. And this, you could take it for what you will. I will say 100%, I do not know this. But I was trying to think of, again, I think 100% Harry coming to visit his father is great. I think it is good that they met. I think in many ways he is coming to support his father. But there's something else here too. And that is, why did he bring his kids? Yes, I know people are like, well, he's going to be sick. He's on, whatever drug. I understand. But the man has probably only seen Lilibet in person one single time. And when I was reading through the Times and the Telegraph, apparently Charles rarely talks to Harry, and William pretty much never talks to Harry. Apparently, William has not talked to Harry since last year. So since Spare comes out, the two of them have not spoken at all, which is not surprising. Harry said that William attacked him. He drug Kate through the mud. And so why would William really want to have a relationship with Harry? So all of this is swirling around. And I think and again, just my theory, the reason perhaps why Meghan and the kids did not come is that Meghan has always utilized the kids as leverage against the royals, particularly Charles. I guess apparently when they left Frogmore Cottage, Meghan or Harry wrote a note saying, well, do you ever want to see your grandkids again? How dare you evict us from this house? You'll never see your grandchildren again. So considering that mindset and considering the fact that like any cancer treatment, you could say you have the best prospects and things could still go south. And I have a feeling, and this is just, again, my theory, I have a feeling sometimes this is perhaps maybe a bit more serious than the kind of the happy, positive public image that we are being asked to believe. And I mean, that's totally, I could be totally wrong. We've been told they caught it early, but depending on what kind of cancer it is, it might not matter that much how early they caught it. I mean, what is early? Is it stage 1, 2, 3? Can't be 4 because that would be late, but it could be these other stages. And so I think what Harry and Meghan's gravest concern is, and I think this is more a concern on Meghan perhaps than Harry, although Harry I'm sure factors into it, is I think the biggest concern that Meghan in particular has, and why once again she refused to allow the children to visit Charles, is that they're really worried about the titles and what their future holds if William gains more power in the monarchy. They're 110% worried about that. That completely freaks them out because I think they are aware that once William has the reins, and not saying that he's going to overstep his father at all, but let's be clear, mortality is definitely an issue. We don't know how much longer Charles has. And again, even though he might come out of this cancer free, it's entirely possible too that whatever treatments he's undergoing will potentially limit his life, make his life more challenging, and perhaps open a window where William has more, you could say, authority or maybe more of a presence than he would normally because his father is ailing. Again, not really saying that's the case, but in this sort of theoretical thing I think Harry and Meghan are worried that once William becomes king or gains a significant amount of power or is given, let's say, even the reins of power, that he will start the process of eliminating their Duke and Duchess title and the titles for their children. I think it's time, and I think a lot of people are thinking about it, is it's time to amend the letters of patent. Either go down the Swedish route and say their kids must live and be educated in English schools to have English titles, or they might just amend it at all to say something else to that effect. Because I think what Catherine and William are realizing is that yes, the slim down monarchy approach does work, but Charlotte and Louis will 100% be working royals. The royals cannot live without more working royals. It can't just be Catherine and William and George and his wife. It just can't be that. We're already seeing how that ain't working right now. You have a very slim down monarchy, and obviously with some of its top players out, although Princess Anne, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the Duke of Edinburgh, like so many of them do so many engagements, they're just not going to get as much attention as the rest of the royals. So at the end of the day, the press attention does matter. And so you do need sometimes younger infusion to get more of that press eye on you. And let's be clear as well, nobody's going to ask Harry and Meghan to rejoin the royal fold. They're just not. And I don't think Harry necessarily is going to the Charles and pitching that. If he is, he's got a hill to climb there, because I just don't think that's going to happen. But I think if Harry and Meghan are looking to the future, and Harry and Meghan's entire business model is centered around them having royal titles. They have nothing else to sell but their royal titles. To have somebody like William, who I think is much more hardline against Harry and Meghan. And you got to remember as well, Catherine apparently, according to Valentine Lowe, was the one who said that recollections may vary must be within the statement responding to Harry and Meghan. They must make it clear that the royals disagreed with Harry and Meghan's narrative on the Oprah Winfrey interview. Is that William, I think, will make the tough decisions Charles can't. I think he will. And I think William needs to protect his children's future, but at the same time limit Harry and Meghan, because the Harry and Meghan sideshow is not going to weigh. And I don't think, no matter what the royals do, all the royals have been trying to do for years is placate them, and it ain't working. It's just not going to work. And so this idea that, well, if we just keep being nice to them, if we keep not responding, that everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay, because Harry and Meghan don't want it to be okay. I mean, particularly Meghan. I don't think that there's a situation here where reconciliation really can happen, or that Harry and Meghan can get out of the reign of King William without suffering some severe consequences, because I just don't think William's going to let it stand. He needs to secure the throne not only for himself, but for his children and their futures. He can't just allow Harry and Meghan to willy-nilly flit about and do whatever they want. And I think the monarchy needs to figure out how to address that they have a prince and princess of Sussex in California who have never been to Sussex. Again, that's just dumb. Lilibet has been to the UK one single time, yet she's a princess of it. I mean, come on, you just can't have that. It just doesn't work, because at some point, the older they get, really they're going to be representing the monarchy, and they're going to be using and abusing those titles in circles in Hollywood where they really shouldn't be. And again, there's situations where royals live outside their countries of origin, but they're able to do that because they have a good relationship with their family. Harry does not. And the royals, again, need to address that and not let this cosplay royal sideshow continue to go on into infinity. So I think William will make those tough choices, and Harry and Meghan are terrified about that. Their business prospects are failing. They don't have much of a future. They can't get anybody else to sign them. Archetypes was a complete and utter fail. Not only did Spotify drop them, nobody else wants to pick them up. And if Netflix is also going by the wayside and they're trying to hustle to get more work, nobody's really interested. Because again, the update Netflix gave us was pretty banal, I would say. It was pretty much like, yeah, they're working on stuff, but it's all in early development, very early development, meaning they don't have anybody signed, they don't have anything ready to go, that they're just kind of running the paces. And so I just don't think those things are going to happen. So all these rumors of reconciliation, though, looking at that in particular, I think it's clear William does not want to reconcile with Harry, and will not, as long as Meghan Markle's in the picture. William cannot allow his family to be used and abused yet again. He's watched his wife be publicly accused of racism for no reason. It probably was perhaps the most inconsequential statement, or nothing at all, that got twisted in the mind of Meghan Markle and Harry, and now Catherine has been labeled this. William does not want that to go on. He can't risk exposing his family to Harry and Meghan. And I'm sure Catherine and William would love to spend time with Archie and Lilibet, but they just can't. They can't really let their children, because they don't know what Harry and Meghan are going to do. Harry and Meghan have taken every single little latitude they've had, blown it out of proportion, used it to attack and stab the family in the back at a later point. And William is aware of this. And I think too, I've heard William has a bit of a temper. And I think, you have to take reports with a grain of salt. But I think when it comes to this, William, I think, is taking a hard line here. And I think that's good. I think that's good for his family. I think it's good for himself, his wife. He does need to take a hard line, because Harry and Meghan just simply can't be trusted. I imagine Harry was probably one of the last to get the news about his father. Not because his father wanted to wait to give him the news last, but because he couldn't risk Harry and Meghan leaking it. So he might have called Harry and talked to Harry and Meghan right before the news came out, because it came out about 5 o'clock, which is about 12 o'clock on the eastern coast. So it's about 9 o'clock in the morning on the west coast. And so he could have let them know just that very morning, right before the announcement went live, going, hey, I got cancer, so we're going to go through this. And so when it comes to Harry visiting, what is he really trying to do? Is he trying to really reconcile? Which he can't without apologizing. Prince Harry has never apologized for all the heartache he's caused. Until he does that, nobody in that family should forgive him. He needs to recognize the things that he's done. Yes, perhaps the royals did some things too, but Harry is putting all the burden on them and taking none of the responsibility for himself. And until he does that, I don't think the family can really forgive, forget, or reconcile with him until that point. And I think Charles is aware that, yes, he wants to have communication with his son and his grandchildren. And I think Harry and Meghan are utterly cruel for preventing Charles from having a relationship with his grandchildren because of all these perceived delusional slights that Harry and Meghan have. But I think for them right now, the real terror is what happens when William is in charge. I think that is where their true fears lie. And so this is not perhaps as much of a reconciliation, because we all know that just ain't going to happen until they can meet on even playing fields. But instead, it's an acknowledgement that, hey, things aren't going to perhaps go the way we think they will. So we got to do whatever we can to secure what we want within the situation, because that's what always Meghan Markle has done with Harry, is try to secure whatever she can. She's gone about it the worst way possible. They've just been incredibly lucky that they've gotten what they have. But Harry and Meghan at this point, they're looking at a very, very uncertain future. And they really need to be thinking to themselves, what are they going to do when William becomes king? Because I think their free ride will end pretty quickly after that. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching. All love and support to Charles as he goes through these treatments. I hope he gets well soon. So thanks for watching again. Subscribe if you haven't. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.